because when I first met him, I thought, oh my God, he's so gorgeous and he's so fanciful, but he would never fancy somebody like me. He would like a sort of a posh girl with a swingy ponytail, or like one of those hair that you can just run your fingers through. And because of course he was a director, so he was somebody, you were in charge, weren't you, and you were organised and you were all of this. So
when did you realise that that Mark was a real drinker?
Well, I mean, it's better to just say the word, isn't it, an alcoholic, because I think...
No, but you maybe didn't think that initially.
No, I always knew he was a real drinker because I'm a drinker and I enjoy a drink. So we met.
Everyone meets through drinking.
Yeah, so many people meet through drinks.
Everyone. I think everyone does.
Not everyone.
I think a vast majority of people, if you go back to the first time that everyone wants their inhibitions to go away. Everyone uses it to some degree to kind of, just soften things. Not annihilated drunk like we were.
Yeah, but so we met and we were partying a lot, ourselves. So, but I think it took me quite a while. It takes quite a while to realise that somebody's an
Most
alcoholic.
of my friends who were obviously my drinking buddies were themselves all shocked when I kind of, if you like, crashed and burned. And that was at the point where I thought my life was totally chaotic. I mean, in here it was chaotic from the get-go. But I wouldn't say I was like always chaotic. I would say that, it did grow and build over the years. And then at the point that it sort of really burst forth, I think even then I was to a degree managing it at work and to a degree managing it, but within a culture of lots of people drinking lots and lots. So when it kind of came to the point that I crashed and went to the Priory, and the tag, I remember sitting in the first meeting at the Priory and them going round and them saying, kind of, you need to admit that you're an alcoholic and say, my name's Mark, I'm an alcoholic. And I couldn't do it for 3 days. Each day you'd go into this group and I'd sit there and I'd say, I'm Mark, I drink too much. But that was it. I drank too much. I wasn't going to sort of admit that I was an alcoholic. So
I remember when you rang me and you'd said that you'd broken down and actually said it, because his drinking had got so bad that I actually said. And there's this great myth that you hear people say it all the time, well, a person's got to want it themselves. It doesn't work like that. And they say that at the Priory, don't they?
They always say that.
What they say, 9 times out of 10, somebody is here because everybody is going to leave them if it doesn't stop. They're at rock bottom. And so I said to Mark, you will never ever come into this house again until you stop drinking. And then when he left, I immediately rang his mum and said to his mum, if he comes to the door, don't let him in. And I stuck by it, didn't I?
Why did you find it so difficult to say, my name is Mark and I'm alcoholic? I mean, was it because there was an audience there and you didn't want to acknowledge it in front of other people? Did you acknowledge it in your own head or not?
It's funny. I think when you're drinking, the biggest irony about it is when you're drinking and you're out and you're part of a group and you're the cut and thrust of that group. I mean, Nadia's known for being very sort of, the life and soul of the party. I was very much the life and soul of the party, and since stopping drinking, it's very hard to be the life and soul of the party. But in being the life and soul
so often are that.
No, I know, but I mean, I have to work hard at it. But I mean, so what you would often say in those situations is you'd all jokingly say as a sort of act of bravura and masculine kind of show-offiness, oh, I'm an alcoholic, it's amazing how often you use the phrase, oh, I'm a big drinker, it was a badge of honour. At the point that and there's another phrase they use, which is, you've got a problem when the cost of a drink is more than simply the cost of a drink.
As in money.
As in money, it's costing you more in terms of relationships with your kids, relationships with your wife, with your family, with yourself, with work. You're sitting in a silent room coldly with no alcohol, no social structure, nothing around you, and you're having to say, oh right, okay, I've kind of failed at managing something that a vast majority, or you think a vast majority of people can control and manage. There's a huge sense of failure. It's like being diagnosed as depressed. You feel a huge sense of failure. You feel like you can't do what other people can do.
So when you eventually did say the words that you found so difficult, what did that feel like?
At first it was okay, and now it's so easy. But that's 12 years later.
I can't see you as an alcoholic.
Yeah, but when I was an alcoholic...
it's just not what I see.
Yeah.
That's good. Because that's not all you are. It's part.
Well, but also there's the sort of slightly stereotypical idea that an alcoholic is big-nosed, sort of wandering around, kind of broken. And, you know, I mean, I had 2 or 3, you know, really key moments. But I remember one of the key moments was an incident with my eldest daughter, Izzy. And, you know, I remember her mum contacting me and saying, I'm really concerned, Izzy was with you, you fell asleep. You know, my then girlfriend came to the flat. She wasn't, you know, she wasn't in a dangerous situation, but I could never, ever forget the memory of the fact that she apparently had spent ages trying to wake me up on the sofa. And I'd had too much to drink. Now, this was 2 or 3 years before I'd met Nadia. And, you know, if I start to chart my drinking all the way back, there were episodes of drinking a lot and episodes of losing control and episodes of trying to control it. And it's just a case of those episodes become more and more. The capacity to pretend it's not happening also becomes more and more. And that becomes the horror of it, because you're maintaining this front of shop. So with the BBC, when I was working down in Bristol, I got done for drink driving. I had to keep pretending that, you know, what was I saying? I didn't have to keep pretending anything.
When you were drink driving, you had to keep pretending.
Yeah, I was keeping up a front, and to all intents and purposes, no one there would have then described me as an alcoholic. I was just someone who got unlucky.
I went to the Priory. Every person I said, they were like, "What do you mean?" Nobody knew he was an alcoholic. Nobody knew, because people would see him drinking and he would be lovely, and I mean, it was just the norm. We'd be sitting here, he'd be pouring drinks, everyone would have a lovely time. And then suddenly you would hear da, 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 and he'd fall all the way down the stairs. But he'd be so funny. He'd stand up, walk in, and be dodging around. Then everyone would leave and everyone would be fine, and everyone had been drinking too much themselves. What they didn't see is that then when they all went, I'd go up to bed and he'd still be drinking till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
So what did it do for you?
What? Drink?
The drink.
It made me feel confident. It made me feel funny. It made me feel attractive. I felt confident with women. I felt confident. I mean, even on the times where you would drink not to annihilation, but certainly with Izzy, who is probably the only one of my children who experienced me as a drinker. In fact, is the only one of my children who's experienced me as a drinker, consciously. It made you feel that you could be a super dad. You know, that word, the phrase fortification. You know, fortified wine. I always think, oh, that's such a curious word to use for it, because it does. It fortifies you, and it used to fortify me in every capacity. Whether it was drink. You know, a lot of people say the same with drugs. You know, drugs did the same. You know, all these things do the same thing. But, you know, it just made me feel confident.
And how do you feel without it?
Now, well, I still feel a sense of, like, it feels like the follicles of your skin are naked and open and you're raw. And, you know, if I go into some social situations, I just feel... And it's not an egotistical thing. I don't think for a minute everyone's looking at me. I don't believe that, you know, there's no sort of sense of, oh, I'm really important. But when you go into somewhere, as soon as people, as they would and do, engage with you, I feel incredibly self-conscious. I mean, so painfully self-conscious that I just can't, that I will either overcompensate or just need to escape or not go. So I will, I mean, I know it's been a problem for me and Nadia a lot, is I'll cancel, you know, in my head situations that I feel I can go into, because I just don't think I can. I'll preemptively think that I can't cope with it.
Yeah, sometimes it's a real struggle. But it is a struggle for the person living with the person as well. It is.
I mean,
because I wake up and I'm naturally really happy. And if somebody's got depression and they're not naturally happy, you almost feel guilty that you wake up jolly. Because you don't want to make...
Does your life really feel like a struggle? Would you use that word?
Yeah, every day is a struggle. Every day it's a huge effort to, not get up literally, but it's a huge effort to kind of tackle the day. The whole day is to be attacked, it's to be grappled with, it's to be fought. But I mean, when I say that, so it is for everyone. And some days I can wake up and I can be really up for the fight. It's those days when you can't be up for the fight that you sort of, you feel it so completely that's why, way back when, you turn to certain substances to try and help you get through it.
It must be exhausting.
It is exhausting. I mean, I always say, it's funny, I always say to Nadia and the girls, I say, look, you're finding me irritating now. You can all walk through that door and leave me. I can't. Yeah. I've got to stay in the same bloody room as me.
I always say to you, isn't it? I always say, thank
nightmare.
God I'm not you.
It really is. It's an absolute nightmare. I mean, for example, it's Christmas now. Christmas is a tricky time of year. I find Christmas so hard when I go into town. If I'm working in town and I walk through Soho, which is where I did most of my drinking, and all the twinkly pubs and all the editors are out of the post-production houses and everyone's standing out with all the external heaters, and I think, oh, wouldn't it be nice to phone up Nadia and just go, oh, let's just hook up, and it would have been nice for an hour. By the end of the night, it would have been total carnage. I'd have been like the Joker in Suicide Squad in a car driving around with 80,000 people all going, this is brilliant.
We think, oh, la la la, Christmas, Christmas, but there are just so many people. There are so many men and women that have partners that are drinkers, and I remember it when Mark was drinking, that Christmas is all about the escalation of alcohol. That Christmas all becomes about how many bottles of wine, then it's the whiskey, then it's the bait, and it's an excuse to have multiple drinks on the go at the same time. And that's horrible for the person drinking and for their family and for their friends. And if you're the rest, Mark was always in turmoil when he was drinking. He wasn't a horrible drunk. He was horrible to himself. But there was so much stress. I was so stressed because I didn't want anybody to think badly of him or think badly of us or think, and when he went into the Priory, and I used to have to go in every Thursday. Do you remember Family Day? And I would have to sit in a group, and all these people recognised me off the telly, and I would have to sit there, and it's part of the rehab, isn't it, where you would have to say everything that has happened in the alcoholic state. So I'd have to, wouldn't we? And people would just be sitting looking at you like this. But it was really important because I had played a part in his drinking. And I didn't understand that when I went to Priory. I thought I was just delivering this mail. Can you help him? And then we're like, well, how are you going to help yourself? You played a part in this. Have you ever hidden a drink? Have you ever phoned up for him? Have you ever made excuses for him? Have you ever pretended he's not drinking enough? Yes. There is nearly always somebody supporting an alcoholic. So I had to really question myself, and there was loads of work. We went to couples counsel. We did so much work.
Yeah, and you have to do. There's so many, and everyone's story is different. And a major part of my thing was all, as it is with most people, tied up with your childhood. My mother has been enormously amazing in accepting so many of the things that went wrong in my childhood and all that kind of stuff. So that really helps. You can't get away from that. I have a very supportive wife who, Nadia is understanding. I get that she gets frustrated at times. But there's one other thing. The most important thing they used to say in the Priory was, you need to do this for yourself. They would say to everyone in the room, no, don't do it for your wife. You're not getting sober for your wife. You're not getting sober for your children. And I've said it many times. I differ from that. It's bullshit. There's no better reason to get sober than for your wife, your children, and your family. Because for whatever reasons, I struggle with finding a reason to do it for myself, because I think I could cope, I could carry on, I could still be doing. But if I know that I'm going to distress Izzy, or it's going to distract the fact that Kiki is the only one of my children who has not spent a single second in my presence with me having alcohol in my system. She's the only one. And I wish that Izzy hadn't had that 1, 2, or 3 experiences of me before. And I wish that Maddie hadn't been a babe in arms for the first 2 years when I was really chaotic and all over the place, because I didn't enjoy the first few years of Maddie, and I know it was difficult for Nadia. And so, the best reason is Nadia and the kids. Enough of a reason. And that's what's worked for me, is doing it for those reasons. So, I hope that sort of feeds into every part of daily life. I can't go out to a few parties, so what? It's not a big sacrifice, is it?